When you're hiking, one of the main things to keep in mind is that you have very limited reserves. And one of the key thing for maintaining good energy on the trail and becoming faster, not only is training, but in addition to that, it's making sure that those fuel reserves never run dry. They never run completely out. And so a big key to that is making sure that you're replacing them with regularity. So you can see here in my picture, we've got a leg drawn. The guy's even got a boot on. And I've called those, there's an arrow pointing to the muscles. And I said, these are our energy storage tanks. Now, just like a gas tank or a water bottle or any other sort of reservoir that you can think of, if you're taking things out of it, and not putting them back in, then eventually they're going to run dry, right? So, for example, an energy drain, one of the ways that we're draining the energy from the muscle, and one of the first things that pops up when someone hits a wall in hiking is they have not been replacing those energies while still expending them. So you can see down here, continuing to be active is like a drain. It's like taking the lid off of a water bottle and pouring it out. There's eventually it's going to run out if you're not then putting it back under the faucet to fill back up. Now, the key thing over here is you want to make sure that you have continued food intake. But here's an important piece. The type of fuel that stores in these muscles mostly is carbohydrate. And so the body functions much more opportunistic on higher carb intake when the energy intensity is high, when you're working very hard. It's relying on carbohydrate. That's the type of energy in these muscles. So that's the type of food that you need to be eating to make sure that those fill back up, right? Now you have several sources that you can rely on. One of them is slow to digest. One of them is fast to digest. Now, here's where you can kind of go in any direction that you want. If you choose the slower digesting foods thinking that they are somehow better for you, like we often think of slower digesting carbohydrates as being better for us, and that's true in day-to-day health, but not necessarily true on the trail. So you got a lot of options in there, but this is where that question you've had up before of like, well, if I eat gummy bears or if I eat uh, Skittles, or if I eat electrolyte powder, or if I drink carbohydrates, if I drink Gatorade, won't that affect my blood sugars? Not if you're active, because again, the muscle's just using it so quickly. But here's the key piece on why you would want to rely on those things a little bit more during moments of high output rather than slow digesting carbohydrates. The slower things are to digest, the more grief they're going to cause your belly because they're just sitting there. They're not moving. They're taking forever to move through. The beauty of these faster digesting carbohydrates when you're really active is they're not just sitting there. Your body is processing them, burning through them. They're torching through them very, very quickly and providing you nearly instantaneous fuel. So you want to be relying on those whenever you have moments of really high output. Now, day-to-day life, not necessarily, but high output, yes, most certainly. And here's an ideal or a look at the structure, right? So one of the key things is to remember that you've got to be replacing these with a lot of regularity. You need to be eating something every hour to 2 hours. 2 hours before the hike, you can do something that's a little slower to digest, like toast and a banana, because you're not at the trail. Your body has the time to break that down and fill up these energy tanks before they actually get there. 1 hour after the hike actually starts, you're going to want a dose of carbohydrates, a handful of gummies, sip on an electrolyte powder. At the 2 hour mark or 2.5 hour mark, you're going to want something again. 3 hours or 3.5 hours, you're going to want something again. You need to be eating frequently because, again, your body is burning through these stores at a rate of nearly 60 minutes. 60 to 90 minutes, these are gone if you're not eating them. So, again, name of the game becomes replacing these with regularity. 3 to 4 hours, you're going to have some sort of a wrap, and then you're going to repeat through the rest of the hike, however long it is that you're on the trail. Remember, totals and timing, totals and timing, totals and timing. Total amount of carbohydrate, eating them with regularity is the timing that you want. That is the key to avoiding the wall. Now, this is separate from your daily nutrition that we've been working on. I know that you had some abnormal labs come back. Your higher glucose numbers are not a result of the food that you're eating on the trail because you're not eating it that much. Your glucose numbers are a response to your day-to-day nutrition habits, and we've talked about that. So I tell you that not to slap your hand. I tell you that to give you and to allow yourself the permission to do this because it will sit better with you. You'll perform better on the trail, and your training will continue to get better if you do that. So I hope that gives you some guidance. If you've got any other questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'd be happy to answer those.